to attend many classes since the last one.
Okay.
But I think hopefully it's okay now.
Okay. What was the problem, do you think?
I don't know really. It was because, according to the company, it was because of the rain, because it had rained a lot. So that's the
Mm.
what we say excuse.
Yeah, makes sense. I actually really miss the rain. It hasn't rained here in Bogota for a long time. It's like, I don't know, sometimes rainy days, like really rainy days, are good to just kind of sit inside and, I don't know, hang out. And it hasn't done it for a long time. Uh, but I think that might be everybody for now. Um, let's get started with today's class. So we're going to be reading a couple short stories again. First one is going to be called Snow. And let's have Heidi. I think you were the first one in. Yeah. Can you read the title, the first part?
Snow. I remember the cold night you brought in a pile of logs, and a chipmunk jumped off as you lowered your arms. What do you think you are doing here? You asked. You said, as it ran through the living room. I went through the library and stopped at the front door as though it had knew the house well. This would be difficult for anyone to believe, except perhaps as the subject of the poem.
Okay. Ran.
Mm-hmm.
Can you repeat ran?
Brown.
Good. Um, Other than that, it sounded good. Does anybody know what a chipmunk is?
Yeah, small animal.
Yeah, a chipmunk is a small animal. What's it like?
Squirrel.
Yeah, it's like a squirrel. It's a small squirrel. Does that make sense, Ana Carolina?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I know because a tongue twister.
Oh, what's the tongue twister?
Yeah.
What is the tongue twister? Can you recite it?
I forgot.
Ah, okay. Okay. All right. And whoa. Need to deal with the touchiness of that. Judith, can you read the next part?
Okay. Our first week in the house was spent scrapping, finding some of the house's secrets, like wallpaper under wallpaper in the kitchen. A pattern of white gold trellis supported the purple grapes, as big and round as ping-pong balls. When we painted the walls yellow, I thought of the bits of grape that remained underneath, and imagined the wine popping through, the way some plants can tenaciously push through, though anything.
True, yeah. Yeah, so there've been a couple errors. I don't know where I got this story. It had known the house well instead of it had knew. But I don't know. That's a really bad one. Um, but through, yeah. Can you repeat scraping
Scraping
and wallpaper under wallpaper?
wallpaper under wallpaper.
Yeah, wallpaper under wallpaper.
Wallpaper under wallpaper.
Good.
Wallpaper under wall. I don't know. Okay.
And then trellises.
Trellises.
Yeah, trellis is. Um, okay. And questions here.
Trellises.
Okay, a trellis is like a. I can just give you a picture of it. Hold on one second. It's just I don't know how to explain it really. So this is a trellis. So the things that like vines grow on. So yeah.
Mhm.
So the trellis supports like the vine, which holds the grapes, if that makes sense. And. Any other questions, guys?
Can I call trellises the wires that you use to for the electricity on streets?
Mm-mm. Uh,
No.
those are just power cables or power lines.
Okay. Wait, not that. The big one that you can see somewhere in the fields, and they are made of metal, and they look like the Eiffel Tower.
Those are high tension power lines, but we'd still say like power lines. So I've got like I don't think you can call them trellises. No. Um, I guess like what they are made up of is like a form of a trellis, sort of.
Mhm.
But we wouldn't really call them trellises. I've never heard of anybody call them trellises. They're just power lines or high tension power lines or yeah. Any other questions? All right. And so we've got somebody's memory, right? So we've got like a narrator and she's remembering something. The first thing she remembers is a chipmunk coming out of a log pile that you put down. And then the chipmunk supposedly is like really at home in the house and, runs out to the door. Um, and yeah, it's just like uncovering the secrets of the house. Um, Feeling like that whatever changes they're making to the house aren't quite working, or aren't maybe permanent. Um, Anna Carolina, can you read?
What does
That's
mean
a long sentence.
tenaciously?
Tenaciously.
Tenaciously.
Who knows what tenaciously means?
Stubbornly.
Yeah, stubbornly. So it's like without being dissuaded, like yeah, unable to stop something. You can't like stop something that is tenacious, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah, he was outside too. Um, all right, Anna Carolina, can you read the next part?
The day of the big snow, when you had to shovel the walk and couldn't find your cap and asked me how to wind a towel so that it would stay on your head in the white towel turban, like a crazy king of snow. People liked the idea of our being together, leaving the city for the country. So many people visited, and the fireplace made all of them want thank you, to tell amazing stories. The child who happened to be standing on the right corner when the door of the ice cream truck came open and hundreds of popsicle, popsicles crashed out.
Okay, good. The country.
Country?
And what's this word?
I said wind, but I guess it's wind.
Yeah, it is wind. So you like wrapping something as winding something. Um, okay. And so many people visited the fireplace, made all of them want to tell amazing stories. And then we start, this is a story, got another story here. Yeah. So in this paragraph, does anybody have any questions?
Upcycle.
Popsicle. Popsicle.
Oh,
Uh,
popsicle.
yeah, who knows what a popsicle is?
It's a kind of ice cream. which has a chic.
Yeah, it's maybe ice cream is more like creamy and milky, and popsicles are more like juicy and fruity. Um, yeah, but same idea. Um, so yeah, popsicles are less like ice cream and more like frozen fruit juice, and like ice cream or like ice cream bars, you could say, would be an ice cream bar, would be more like ice cream on a stick. But yeah, perfect. Any other questions? Okay. And oh, go ahead.
No, no. So all the popsicle went on the street.
Yeah, and there was a child who was right at the right spot to catch all of the popsicles that crashed out of the ice cream truck. That was one of those stories that they were told around the fireplace, is all. Make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So we've got like a relation, pretty much basically so far. There's this idea of somebody recounting a relationship, kind of like the things that they did, um, and then their friends coming to visit them from the city and telling stories, is what we've got so far. And Carolina just read Wellington. Are you there?
Yes. Hi, how
Okay.
are you?
Hey, I'm doing well, thanks. Um, and how are you?
Very fine, thank you.
Nice. Good to hear. Wellington, can you read the next part?
Okay. Um, the man stands on the beach, sand sparkling in the sun. On beach glittering more than the rest, stooping to find a diamond ring. Did they talk about amazing things because they thought it would turn into on of them? Now, I think they probably guessed it wouldn't work. It was as ruthless as giving a child a math cup and saucer. Remember the night out of the lawn, knee-deep in snow. Things pointed at the sky as the wind whirled down all the whiteness. Well,
The wind whirled down all that whiteness.
wind whirled down all that whiteness.
Yeah, that sounded a lot better. A matched cup,
Meshed cup,
and
meshed cup,
you probably guessed.
guessed.
Uh,
I think
turn into one of them.
into into one of them,
One into one of them.
into one of them.
Good. Okay. And does anybody have any questions here? Okay. This is a little bit tricky. So I guess we've got, again, the narrator still talking about the relationship, talking about the friends who are telling stories. So we've got a boy who finds, or who is like, has popsicles launched at him, and we have a man who finds a diamond ring on a beach. And she asks herself, or whoever she's writing to, if their friends who are telling these stories thought that they, as a couple, would turn into one of those incredible things. But now she probably thinks they knew it wouldn't have worked. Like, they knew, their friends knew that the relationship that these two were in wasn't going to work. It was hopeless. Um, and then she goes back talking about like the snow, their time in the lawn with their house. Okay. And Patricia, can you read the next part?
Okay. It seemed that the world had been turned upside down, and and we were looking into an enormous field of green lace. Later, headlights off, our car was the first to ride through the newly fallen snow. The world outside the car looked solarized. Solarized, yeah.
Solarized, yeah. And the next little paragraph until escape. Oh, hold on.
Okay. You remember it differently. You remember that the cold settled in stages. The small curve of light was shaved from the moon night after night, until you were no longer surprised the sky was black. That the chipmunk ran to hide in the dark, not simply to a door that led to its escape. Well,
Okay. And so this is, again, tricky. Does anybody have any questions about any of the words? Okay. Does anybody know what Queen Anne's lace is? Nobody? Anne's lace. Hold on. So I'll get a picture of it. Do. So Queen Anne's lace is this like really white flower. Um, Everybody okay with that? Okay. Yeah, so that's Queen Anne's lace. Let's go back here. So like the idea that they were looking into an enormous field of Queen Anne's lace because of the snow. Like all of that snow being so white, everything looks like that flower. Yeah, and then they drove through it. It looked solarized, so the snow was really bright because of like the whiteness and reflection. And so they drove through it with their headlights off. And then we've got wild onions. Interesting. And then we've got his perspective. So for the whole first part, like we've kind of got her perspective, and then it's his perspective. So we start with the story of the chipmunk. So the chipmunk ran to hide in the dark. It didn't lead to its escape. So in her story, she got like this poetic kind of version. So it went through the library and stopped at the front door as though it had known the house well. So it stopped at the front door. It's like just about ready to leave. In his version, it gets lost in the dark, kind of. All right. Any other questions from that section? All right. No questions in the beginning, I guess. Man. And have Mustafa, can you read the next part?
Okay. Our visitors told the same stories people always tell. One night, giving me a lesson in storytelling, you said, any life will seem dramatic if you omit a mention of most of it.
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. This then for drama. I drove back to that house not long ago. It was April, and Alan had died. In spite of all the visitors, Alan next door had been the good friend in bad times.
Nice. Okay. In spite.
In spite.
And it was April.
April.
Any life will seem dramatic. Dramatic.
Dramatic.
If you omit
Dramatic.
mention. If you omit mention.
Mention.
Omit.
Mm,
Omit.
mention.
Oh. Omit. Omit.
Omit.
Yeah.
Omit mention. Omit mention.
Omit mention. Good.
Omit mention.
Nicely done.
Dramatic.
Dramatic. Okay. And questions here. Okay, so again, we're getting his perspective. She thinks that the stories that the visitors told were incredible. She really liked them. And then he says that they're the same old stories. They're not anything special. And then he thinks that any life would seem dramatic if you omit mention of most of it. And then she says she drove back to the house where they lived before they broke up, because we were pretty sure that they've broken up by now. Um, their neighbor had died, so she drove back for like the funeral of the neighbor, because the neighbor had been a really good friend when things were going bad for them. So a good friend in bad times. So even though they had a lot of visitors who come to the house, Alan, the next door neighbor, had been a really good friend to her. Makes sense here. Anybody have any questions?
So now is the man who is recollecting
He's not recollecting. She's like recollecting for him. So
for him.
the
But
narrator is the.
it,
Go ahead.
it is the perspective of him, right?
Yeah. So these last parts, like you remember it
Yeah.
differently.
The last.
So the first whole almost page really is her recollection of the things of their life together, and then she's saying you remembered it differently. The story about the chipmunk, like the winter, the stories that their friends told, their visitors told. Okay. And then let's have Hogan. Can you read the next part?
Sure. It is starting from.
Oops, sorry.
Sorry.
No, that was my fault. Starting with I sat.
Okay. I sat with his wife in their living room, looking out the glass doors to the backyard, and there was Ellen's pool, still covered with black plastic that had been stretched across it for winter. It had rained, and as the rain fell, the cover collected more and more water until it finally spilled onto the concrete. When I left that day, I drove past what had been our house.
Okay. Questions here? Okay, pretty basic, I guess. There's nothing too. Okay, and let's have Heidi. Can you read the next part?
Three or four crocuses were blooming in the front. Just a few dots of white. No fear of snow. I felt embarrassed for them. They couldn't compete. This is a story told the way you say stories should be told. Somebody grew up, fell in love, and spent her love
Oh,
country. This, of course, is the barest outline and future to discuss.
okay. Really good. Do you have any questions here? Really nice job with feudal.
Future useless
Yeah. A crocus is a type of flower.
flower, yes, more flower on the field.
Mm-hmm. And so, I guess she's comparing again the crocuses to the snow. Saying they couldn't really compete. They're just not the same amount of brightness. No other questions?
Barest outline.
The barest outline. So an outline is
Means
kind of. Go ahead. What do you think it means?
no. Yes. What means please?
What does it mean?
What does it mean? Think.
Um, so the barest outline is kind of like a skeleton of something. It's like the form that it takes, and it's like a really faint form. It's not very clearly visible. So instead of going into a lot of detail, you just mention the main points. So that would be kind of an outline. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And a bare outline is like a really thin one, something without a lot of information. All right. And Julieta, can you read the next part?
Yes. Uh, it's it's a pointless and throwing a bird seed on the ground while snow still falls fast. Who expects small things to survive when even the largest get lost? People forget years and remember moments. Seconds and symbols are left to sum things up. The black shroud over the pole, love in its shortest form, becomes a word. What I remember about all that time is one winter, the snow.
Yeah. Um, it's as pointless. Can you repeat? It's as pointless.
It's as pointless.
Okay. Questions here. It's a black shroud.
Hmm. I don't remember.
Anybody else know what a shroud is?
It's a kind of cloth that they cover dead body.
Yeah. And why is it over the pool? What's the reference to?
I don't know.
Does anybody
To
remember?
the
Pardon?
winter before.
Mm-hmm.
To the winter because the pool was covered before.
Mm-hmm. The pool, Alan's pool,
Yes.
was covered for the winter, and he died. So when she goes back, it's winter, and he died. And so that's why it's kind of like a shroud still. So it's kind of like covering this death, even though it's over his pool. So it's still kind of like a cloth that covers something. Just kind of playing with words. Kind of like a symbol. Any other questions?
Okay. So, no, nothing.
Okay. This sentence. I mean, can anybody kind of explain the sentence?
I think she's trying to find the essence. So when she said about the dad of his friend, she uh, collapsed two things together, and so thinking about love, she
It's hard.
how can I say that? But yeah, how can I say that? I don't know.
If you go
It's
back,
like
I think. Sorry, may
go
I?
ahead. Yeah.
I think love becomes a word because it's like just saying, it's just a word. It has no meaning at all, no actions, something like that.
Yeah. Exactly. So, being in love is really different from the word just love. I mean, yeah. So that's kind of what she's saying. She's talking about this quotation that he said, this thing he said about storytelling. So any life will seem dramatic if you omit mention of most of it. And so most of what she's doing here is she's cutting out everything that kind of happened and just like mentioning the most, I guess, what she says, um, dramatic of things. So like this for drama. She like drove back and Alan had died. Um, Yeah. And so, again, love, like what they had together. If she cuts it down enough, it just becomes a word and it's not really anything anymore. Anyways, it's good. And yeah, Wellington, nice. Where were we? And Francisco, are you there?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Can you read the next part?
Okay. Even now, saying snow, my lips move so that they kiss the air. No mention has been made of the snowplow that seemed
Snow.
always snowplow that seemed
Mhm.
always to be there. Scraping snow off our narrow road and artery clear, so neither of us could have said where the heart was.
Good. The snowplow.
Snowplow
And seemed.
and seem
And scraping snow off our narrow road.
scraping snow off our narrow road.
Scraping snow off our narrow road.
Scraping?
Scraping snow. So we want to emphasize snow off our
Okay,
narrow
scraping
road.
snow off our narrow road.
Narrow road. Yeah. Good. All right. That was good. And does anybody have any questions here? Questions or comments on this story? Okay. Does anybody feel like they got an idea of what it was about or like what was happening? Does anybody have, yeah, can anybody kind of try to sum it up or summarize what it was about? Nobody? All right. Do you guys feel like it would be a good idea to read it again, or do you want to try a different story? It was a hard story.
Read it again.
Read it again? Yeah, that's kind of
Mm.
what I was leaning towards. Um, okay. And Francisco finished. Let's have Ana Carolina. Can you read the title in the first paragraph? The first little part?
Snow by Anne Beatty. I remember the cold night too. You brought in a pile of logs and a chipmunk jumped off as you lowered your arms. What do you think you are doing in here? You said, as it ran through the living room. It went through the library and stopped at the front door, as through it had known the house well. This would be difficult for anyone to believe, except perhaps as the subject of a poem.
Okay.
Thought,
Chip.
thought,
Huh? Nope. As
do,
though.
do,
As
do,
though.
do.
Um, the chipmunk? Chipmunk.
Chipmunk
Good. And then ran. As it ran.
ran.
Perfect. Nice. Okay. This is a nice. This thing with the chipmunk comes back a lot. And it, it's interesting to note that she says it's difficult for anybody to believe, or it would be difficult for anybody to believe, except as the subject of a poem. This is her version of events, so maybe it's romanticized. Um, the chipmunk seems to know exactly where it is, where it's going, as though it kind of belongs. Yeah, and then Wellington, can you read the next little paragraph?
Okay. Our first week in the house was spent scrapping, finding some of the house's secrets, like wallpaper, under wallpaper. In the kitchen, a pattern of white gold trellises is supported purple grapes as big and round as ping-pong balls. When we painted the walls yellow, I thought of the bits of grape that remained underneath and imagined the vine popping through the way some plants can tenaciously push it push it through anything.
Sorry, popping through.
Popping through. Okay.
That was wrong. Remained.
Remain.
Remained.
Okay. Remained.
Purple.
Purple.
Trellises.
Trellises. Trellises.
And scraping.
Scraping.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions here? Okay. We've got an idea, like maybe an image of them changing the house, and her fear that they're not going to be able to change really anything, that the grapes are going to kind of push through the paint that they've put on. It's like, yeah, interesting image here. No questions, I don't think. Patricia, can you read the next part?
The day of the big snow, when we had to shovel the walk and couldn't find your cap, and asked me how to wind the towel so that it would stay on your head. You, sorry, you in the white towel turban, like a crazy king of snow. People like the idea of our being together, leaving the city for the country. So many people visited, and the fireplace made all of them want to tell amazing stories. The child who happened to be standing on the right corner when the door of the ice cream truck came open, and hundreds of popsicles crashed out.
Nice, really good pronunciation. Does anybody have any questions here? Okay. Does anybody have any ideas or thoughts so far? Just the story. Okay. Mustafa, can you read the next paragraph?
The man standing on the beach, sand sparkling in the sun, one bit glinting more than the rest, stopping to find a diamond ring. Did they talk about amazing things because they thought we'd turn into one of them? Now, I think they probably guessed it wouldn't work. It was as hopeless as giving a child matched cup saucer. Remember the night out on the lawn, knee deep in snow, chins pointed at the sky as the wind whirled down all that
All that
witness,
whiteness.
all that witness,
Whiteness.
whiteness. Yes,
Good. There you go. Cup and saucer.
cup and saucer,
Uh-huh. It
cup and
wouldn't work.
saucer.
It
It
wouldn't work.
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
And stooping.
Stooping,
Yeah.
stooping.
Good.
Stooping. Yes.
What does stooping mean?
Rest stooping to find them. Standing.
Not standing.
Yeah, just waiting to find diamond ring or looking for.
Mm-mm. Does anybody have any ideas? Stooping?
Like squatting.
Yeah, it's like squatting. Like bending over, kind of. If you're stooping, you're kind of bending over.
Bending. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like
Leap.
not leaping. Leaping is
Yeah.
jumping. Leaning, maybe.
Leaning.
Yeah.
Yes. Lean.
So yeah, you're bending over to find a diamond ring. Any other questions here?
It's a saucer.
A saucer is like what you put under a coffee cup. So imagine this is like a little teacup, maybe a little handle. Do do do. So that would be a teacup, and the saucer is what you put underneath it. So that's a pretty good drawing, if I do say so myself. So that's a teacup and saucer. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. So maybe like one of them is a cup and one of them is a saucer in the couple, and children just never really keep matched cups and saucers together. Yeah, so they're just like kind of separate. Any of yeah. All right, let's go and have. I think it was Heidi. Can you read the next two paragraphs? We'll read this first one.
It seemed that world had been turned upside down, and we were looking into the enormous field of Queen Anne's race. Later, headline of our car was the first to ride through the newly fallen snow. The world outside of the car looked solarized.
Okay. The world outside the car looked solarized.
The world outside the car looked solarized.
And it seemed that the world.
The world.
And can you read the next part?
You remember it differently. You remember that cold settled in stages. That small curve of light was shaved from the moonlight after night, until you were no longer surprised the sky was black, that the chipmunk ran to hide in the dark, not simply to door that led to its escape.
Nice. Don't forget your articles. Led to a door. To a door.
To a door.
The cold.
The cold.
Yeah.
And the cold.
Perfect. Good job. Okay. And does anybody have any questions in this part? Okay. Let's go on to the next part. Giulietta, can you read the next two little parts?
Our visitors told the same stories people always tell. One night, giving me a lesson in storytelling, you said, "Any life will seem dramatic if you omit mention of most of it."
Good.
This, then, for drama, I drove back in that house not long ago. 'Twas April, and Alan had died. In spite of all the visitors, Alan next door had been the good friends in bad times.
The good friend.
Friend.
Yeah. All right. Good. Any questions here? Okay. And let's have Francisco. Can you read the next paragraph?
Okay. Which one?
I sat.
Okay, I sat with his wife in their living room, looking out the glass doors to the backyard, and there was Alan's pool, still covered with black plastic that had been stretched across, set for winter. It had rained, and as the rain fell, the cover collected more and more water until it finally spilled onto the concrete. When I left that day, I drove past had been our house.
The concrete.
Concrete. Onto the concrete.
Good. Questions here, guys?
Can I say I drove past to what had been our house?
That sounded like what I'm reading. I drove past what had been our house. What did you say?
I add a to, but I drove past to what or I drove past what?
No, we couldn't
No?
add the two. I drove past what had been our house.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we couldn't. Sorry. Good question, though. Any other questions? Okay. Ana Carolina, can you read the next part?
Yes. From three,
Mm-hmm.
3 of the 4 crocus were blooming in the front. Just a few dots of white, no field of snow. I felt embarrassed for them. They couldn't compete. This is a story told the way you say stories should be told. Somebody grew up feeling love and spent a winter with her lover in the country. This, of course, is the barest outline and the futile to discuss.
Good. You can definitely say futile. Futile
Feudal,
works as well, or you can say futile.
feudal, feudal. How do you say
I kind of go back and forth, to be honest. Futile, if you want to make more, like, put more emphasis on it. And futile. That was a futile attempt.
feudal, feudal,
It's just,
futile, feudal?
yeah. So it definitely depends. Crocuses.
Crocuses? What is crocuses?
Crocus is a type of flower.
Thank you.
Hmm. And any other questions here? Okay, Wellington, can you read the next part?
Okay. Um, it's it's it as pointless as throwing birdseed on the ground, while snow still falls fast. Who expects small things to survive when even the largest get lost? People forget years and remember moments. Seconds and symbols are left to sum things up. The black sh- the black oh, the black showed over the pool. Love, in its shortest form, becomes a word. What I remember about all that time is one winter, the snow.
Okay. Maybe what I remember about all that time is one winter.
What what I remember about all that time is one winter.
Good. And shroud?
Shroud, shroud, shroud.
Yeah, shroud. Largest?
Largest
Expect.
spects.
Yeah. Good. Questions? Okay. And let's have Patricia, can you read the end?
Okay. And even now, saying snow, my lips move so that they kiss the air. No mention has been made of the snowplow that seemed always to be there, scraping snow off the narrow road, an artery clear, though neither of us could have said where the heart was.
Okay. So it's a poetic kind of story. Um, does anybody feel like they got it on the second reading? I mean, or just understood a little bit better? I don't know.
I think that she doesn't want to say that love has no meaning. I think that she is saying uh, that love is in what she remember, and what she remember is the snow.
Uh-huh. Okay, really good.
I don't know.
I I like that. Does anybody else have any interpretations or ideas?
Hmm.
I think she uh, she has she remember the time that when she lived there, and maybe in the winter good things happened,
Hmm.
and now that that she is there visiting the house. Uh, the images uh, uh, came to their mind,
Into her mind.
her mind. Yeah,
Okay, so she definitely visits the house again. Um, who was she living in the house with?
it's not Alan
It
because
wasn't Alan.
yeah, because he died.
Yeah, he died later. He was the neighbor. So Alan, the neighbor,
Okay.
who was a good friend in hard times.
Yeah. The the sheep monkey,
The sheep?
the sheep monkey.
Oh, the chipmunk. There was definitely a chipmunk. Does anybody else who was living in the house with her for the winter?
Her lover?
Yeah, her lover was living in the house with her. Lover or boyfriend. And so generally a large portion of the story is like differences between how she remembers it and how he remembered it.
Yeah.
Also the way that like you tell stories, and you kind of have to wonder if he was ever in love with her. Um, yeah, this idea of talking about details and the small things and kind of the big things, like cutting things out and putting them in. Um, Maybe belonging, like this chipmunk. Like, what do you think you're doing here? This chipmunk is kind of strange. In one case, the chipmunk knows exactly how to get out. He like kind of fits in. And in another case, he gets kind of lost in the dark. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think like the chipmunk story is kind of important for this. It's a really complicated one. It's a little bit poetic. Um, yeah, it's definitely up to the interpretation though. So yeah, if you guys want to read it again, it's in the chat box. The link to the story. It's a cool little story. It's got some really nice lines in it. And if you want to read it again, it's quick too. Um, yeah, thanks for coming in. We are just about out of time. Does anybody have any last questions or comments or thoughts or ideas?
And this text is like we said, it's hard but very good to learn. Of
Nice.
course, it's hard
Well, I'm
but
glad.
very good.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
Yeah, thank you, Heidi. See you later. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye guys.
See ya.
Thank